Interesting. This is a rematch between HAPPYDEATH and R3DDOG. And I won't spoil it, but if you saw the last game, it's pretty cool, pretty sweet, pretty awesome, you know, stuff. HAPPYDEATH being on the left-hand side in the helix, R3DDOG being on the right-hand side and also in the helix. Used to seeing a lot of striker, but helix, I think I'm okay with this. I am emotionally confused, but accepting. Let's find out how this is going to go. R3DDOG going immediately for his top post, HAPPYDEATH going immediately for his bottom post. Bottom being a little bit more standard because that's where your creeps are going to aggro to first. HAPPYDEATH going ahead to put those on hold position is going to be able to keep most of them alive, but unfortunately not all of them. R3DDOG, similarly, is going to be neutralizing his outposts, dropping a couple of his own creeps, trying to keep them alive. Successfully or unsuccessfully, it looks like they both lost the first round. And HAPPYDEATH is going to change positions for the top post as his tanks finish off the bottom. This should put HAPPYDEATH just a little bit ahead as far as speed goes due to that creep aggro. Now the top post is a little bit easier to take if you are just waiting for that unit advantage, but it's kind of a personal preference. But HAPPYDEATH is going to be just a little bit ahead on timing. Dropping a couple Gemini. Normally Longhorn being the favored tank, HAPPYDEATH going with Gemini, R3DDOG going with the familiar and oh so comforting Longhorn. So Longhorn versus Gemini in a straight up fight, the Longhorn will be better. So HAPPYDEATH with a little bit of a loadout disadvantage, not necessarily a loss, but a slight disadvantage depending on how they're going to use those units. Now Gemini to Longhorn head to head may be Longhorn wins, but Gemini versus Longhorn and the Gemini in a better position, the Gemini are going to win. They're going to have a little bit higher DPS, but a little bit less armor piercing. Tanks naturally having less armor in the back. So depending on how well they can babysit and micro those units, you'll definitely see a little bit of an advantage go to the Gemini. HAPPYDEATH not going to be fooled. Sees that R3DDOG is skimming that top outpost and repositioning all of his units to be able to counter everything R3DDOG's got, so that Gaddy does go down. HAPPYDEATH 1-0 on R3DDOG now. Although the Gemini goes down, so now it's even. Every little pick-off counts. R3DDOG having a substantially stronger composition here, but won't be able to neutralize the outpost unless he gets more units in here. Dropping Butchers. Butchers usually really good for distracting tanks, but Gemini don't give a fuck. So with the Butchers coming in for both sides, the Gemini going to have a little bit of an upper hand as well, because they're going to be better able to counter those infantry-style units. Ratchet is going down, more Butchers coming in. Now the Longhorn going to be unabated, a couple creeps going to distract. Longhorn not great against the creeps, wasting a couple shots on those instead of tanks. But R3DDOG does look like he's getting the upper hand here. HAPPYDEATH starting to run out of units. Way too many repair units. Now, R3DDOG's units themselves are running pretty low and starting to smoke, which is not healthy. Don't do that, yo. Going to get 3 of the Butchers into the post, but not quite enough infantry here. Now, a Gaddy on the defense is going to be able to keep this neutral as well in coordination with HAPPYDEATH's rockets. R3DDOG trying to reposition his units, but might get a couple of tanks taken out here because R3DDOG still has no healing, no energy with which to heal, even if he's just doing micro. Gaddies on the ass of each of these Longhorn are going to be pretty devastating as well. So HAPPYDEATH repositioning, not interested in killing tanks, just interested in killing this outpost, because if he can get the outpost neutral, his mech can finish the job. All he needs is for these Longhorn to die of attrition, and gets the player kill. Oh, and sockets the Gaddy. That's going to give it a 50% damage buff. Wipes out the rest of these tanks with the socketed Gaddy and his own missiles into the rear unarmored portion. R3DDOG on a major back foot now. Had the upper hand for a while there, but just ended up getting overpowered by the overwhelming Gaddy spray into that outpost. Unable to really solidify it, but just didn't have the credits or the build queue to sustain that outpost for long enough. So HAPPYDEATH able to come back. R3DDOG able to stabilize. HAPPYDEATH with only a couple of Gaddies really isn't able to move forward, isn't really able to push the momentum, so we're going to see that both players on a slightly even foot here, with Happy Death slightly in the lead. Now Red Dog is just out of range of this neutral Goliath and is going to be able to take out both the Goliath and the neutral honeypot that was repairing it, so we should expect Red Dog to be a little bit ahead on his neutrals, but kind of a Pyrrhic victory so far for Happy Death, dropping some creeps just for annoyance factor. The blue creeps from Red Dog going to be able to take that out. Happy Death trying to take that distraction to push forward. Ultimately 1v1, you're looking to monopolize the attention. Your enemy mech can only be one place at one time, so if you drop something on the fort, they have to address it or they lose. So you drop something on the fort and then immediately go push into one of their outposts, and they will be less able to stop you. Red Dog with the Gaddy on the corner of that top left corner, almost able to get a capture, but a Gaddy from Happy Death as well on the defense. Gaddy versus Gaddy, the one that's closer to home tends to be the victor. Red Dog just getting a heal, saving his Gaddy, but losing his creeps, and that's going to be gender neutral. But Happy Death transitioning into Busters. Busters are going to have the one-up, as well as a Tesla Tower. Tesla Towers being a little bit unique in that they have no problem shooting uphill. They can violate most expectations for line of sight restrictions, but the range leaves a little bit to be desired. So this Tesla Tower might actually get taken out by this Gaddy in close contact. Balloons! So Red Dog going to take massive surge of damage. Balloons being air-to-air mine type units that actually seek Airmechs out. Tesla Tower going to get repositioned to the high ground, and it's going to take care of most of these butchers, if not all of them, pretty even-handedly. So a lot of these butchers are going to go down without the opportunity to really put any damage in, so it's kind of a wasted investment from Red Dog. Happy Death going to get another kill here as well, putting Red Dog just a little bit more behind with these little onesie-twosie pickoffs left and right, killing the butchers. That was essentially a tank or two worth of butchers, which just gives him a weaker position here. No repair units for Red Dog. Happy Death going to be able to just leapfrog forward. Grinders and Busters are going to make short work of anything that Red Dogs have, but Red Dog has his own Grinders now, getting unlocked at level 4 or 5. So doing a little bit of tank Tetris here. Grinders doing a lot more damage. They're being a melee combat unit. You really have to babysit them a lot to optimize their damage. Red Dog going down again with a Grinder in cargo. That is devastating. So all of his units here are a little bit weak, a little bit sad. Another Grinder goes down. Happy Death way ahead now is just going to top up his units. Win ahead, get more ahead. So all he needs to do is get a couple infantry into this post. Now it's his, and he can reposition his units to his heart's content to get a better position on this post. A bigger concave is going to give him more shots from more directions while being more spread out on his own defense. Gemini's still doing really good against the Butchers. I'm not sure if Red Dog realizes he has all Gemini. If these were Longhorn, those Butchers would actually be shredding it. So Gemini being an interesting choice, but just knowing that your opponent is going to use infantry to distract your tanks all the time, the Gemini have actually proven to be the better choice. Strangely enough, if Red Dog had just gone exclusively tanks, he would be in a better spot here. Happy Death with 2 balloons in cargo, seeing if he can't get a little bit of a shenanigan running on Red Dog. Red Dog forced to retreat from those balloons and just trying to get the other. And Happy Death just picking that up. Maybe later he'll get that kill. Tucks that balloon behind his outpost, so if Red Dog gets a little bit too friendly with that outpost, he is going to get killed violently by exploding mines. Setting up a good wall of Busters here, finally getting some repair units. Looks like Happy Death has artillery firing in. Now the Gaddy being on a socket is going to make it auto-repair itself independent of the honeypot, so that artillery, even though it gets an extra shot every other shot, really isn't going to make anything happen, so it's just there for looks. But it is going to distract this honeypot periodically, and it's going to keep Red Dog from repairing his bottom front. Red Dog trying to open up a new front, might get taken out again. Not again.
Rampage.
Oh, not again. So Happy Death going to be way ahead, just hit upkeep cap, and is going to be really forced by his own position to move out, putting 3 balloons while he himself uses his mech. This is sadistic. Red Dog flying in, but he's got 3 balloons on him already. That's a guaranteed kill if he gets hit by those. So that's a sneaky form of harassment if you have an undefended post. Just drop some balloons over top of yourself, and the Helix can't just park over you. More artillery coming down, so 3 total for Happy Death. Still not going to be quite enough damage. You can either go full in on artillery or find another way. Happy Death is going to see that those are getting damaged by the tanks, withdraw those. Red Dog dropping a couple of heavy mines just to really prevent Happy Death from leapfrogging any tanks to the front of this outpost. That's going to help Red Dog keep it neutral and reposition his units in a firing line on that outpost itself. I would expect Happy Death to be able to easily manipulate and fight those busters. Is going to lose a buster, is potentially going to lose a Gemini. Did drop those right on a heavy mine, didn't see those go down. So those mines actually proving to be a pretty good stumbling block by Red Dog against Happy Death. Happy Death sees these more mines going down, knows that he won't be able to micromanage those, tries to get the missile burst, but not quite enough burst damage to kill Red Dog. And Happy Death transitioning into Goliaths, dropping it right on another heavy mine, but Goliath is such a high hit pool that it really doesn't give a damn. And it's a little bit of a stalemate around this middle. Red Dog with the mines, kind of an inferior unit composition, definitely a much lower upkeep. Really not going to be able to make a lot happen. He's not going to be able to outrange this. Happy Death with his own busters, his own Goliaths, his own grinders. This will basically shred most things that come forward. That's actually a pretty decent mix of units. Red Dog, meanwhile, having Longhorn and Busters. He's supplementing it with Gaddies, though, so infantry distraction isn't really going to be an option. Infantry and light units really aren't going to do much here, so I would expect Happy Death to just get a bigger upkeep advantage with late-game units, things like Berthas, things like Goliaths, and then make a transition from there. Him being level 9, Red Dog being level 7 is going to enable Happy Death to get access to units that Red Dog cannot, like the Gorgons, Devastators, more Goliaths. So that Gorgon is going to prevent Red Dog from really flying over here. The Balloons are going to prevent Red Dog from getting too close. While the Grinders and the Tesla Towers are going to wreak havoc from below. Tesla Towers, once again, not really caring about line of sight restrictions and are going to be able to shoot up, while none of the units on the high ground are going to be able to shoot down. Red Dog getting a kill, dying himself. I mean, that much wasn't different, but Happy Death going down. And we're just going to sit here and watch the Red Artillery and Tesla Tower shred everything that Red Dog had. It is unfortunate. But that is the advantage of Tesla Towers on maps with mountains. Tesla Towers being able to shoot up those cliff faces no problem is just going to make it so hard to outposition that. More balloons going down, so Red Dog not even able to stay on his own outpost despite the fact that it's got full energy, and the artillery fire, concentrated artillery fire, 5 different Archies is going to be able to neutralize that base no problem. Red Dog just trying to stay alive, get his units up. Grinder going over another mine. These mines still showing that they have value, but with a little bit of babysitting, able to out-micro and out-position this. Red Dog can't really micro his units because he's got these 2 balloons on him. Now he can get back in there, but he's already lost some of these heavy tanks, and more balloons coming out is just preventing Red Dog from really interacting with his units at all. Now at this point, all of the heavy mines have been cleared out. Happy Death may or may not realize that. There's still 1 or 2 over here, but it's really not a place where Happy Death is going to be tempted to drop any units anytime soon. Artillery going to repeatedly neutralize this outpost. Tesla Tower is going to repeatedly apply stasis to most of these units that Red Dog is putting on defense. Now, Grinder is going to be a pretty tough cookie, not going to be able to get killed by the stasis, but their damage input is going to be massively cut down, meaning a red Grinder on the counter is going to be able to defeat it no problem. So a lot of those artillery getting taken out by the superior positioning from Red Dog, but because Red Dog's been unable to micro a whole lot, loses his own Goliath, so another Pyrrhic victory. So handful of Goliaths, handful of Busters. It is a very tough, good punching power composition, but you know, we'll have to see. Happy Death did take a lot of losses there. Lost a lot of value in the Tesla Tower, lost a lot of value in the artillery. His outpost is fairly low on energy, and he's going to have to retreat a little bit. He's also been dropping a lot of his forward units on top of mines, but Red Dog with no healing units down low is probably going to just take a little bit too much damage from those artillery. I'd be curious to see where Happy Death is going with this, because he's got 3 Grinders, Grinders really being a melee combatant, not particularly good at doing anything other than grinding. Tesla tower on the back of the outpost, that's mean. That's going to prevent any units on this side of the outpost from firing in while they'll be taking damage and getting that stasis effect at the same time. Happy Death going to take his own Goliaths and see if he can't get a better position. Now, socketed T99 is going to be pretty wicked sick in damage output. Defensive Goliath as well made that pretty much a guaranteed loss, so Happy Death quickly recognizing the situation, withdrawing his Goliath. Red Dog going for a more traditional style of tank Tetris here, just trying to get these stronger units with the bigger health pool and more of them. Roughly even upkeep. Red Dog with a little bit of a credit advantage. Income's going to be about the same. What kind of sockets do we have? Happy Death trying to increase his maximum upkeep, and Red Dog not really having anything on sockets, so no money makers, no generators. What that's going to net is that Happy Death is going to have the higher potential for an army, and the longer this game goes on without a significant battle to decide it, the more likely it's going to be that Happy Death is actually just going to pull ahead. Devastators for Red Dog, though. Devastators being a very thick, very heavy unit, going to be able to knock down just about anything, but it's running so low on health. Happy Death barely saving that Goliath as well. Keeping his Gorgon alive, keeping his Goliaths alive, even keeping all these derpy grinders alive. Well, maybe this one's going to finally meet its end. Heavy Mine as well, so Happy Death finally losing a grinder. And so we have one Devastator, multiple honeypots. Red Dog has a good position here, but these butchers are going to be able to outmaneuver most of his units. Busters not really doing well against infantry. Goliaths not doing well against infantry. Devastators not going to do well against infantry. Still seeing that his Devastator is still low, trying to position more honeypots in there, trying to get it healed, but ultimately if Happy Death gets a lot of butcher spam in there, he is going to be able to overcome a lot of these tank lines just from attrition. The other big disadvantage of these Goliaths and Devastators is that their maximum range tends to be lower. They're a good pushing tank, they're a good hit point pool, but they're not going to be able to outrange things in a head-on engagement. They require a lot of micromanagement to stay alive and get the upper hand. Happy Death losing another Goliath. Red Dog with a major upper hand here if he can keep this Devastator alive, but multiple busters pushing on it. Saves it in the nick of time. Another Goliath hidden behind the trees. And Happy Death with a noticeable upkeep disadvantage here. So a little bit of a composition mismatch here. He's going with grinders. Grinders being pretty good, but not necessarily the best choice. Rolling over another heavy mine from Red Dog and going to lose two grinders, each grinder being so expensive, about the same cost, just a little bit cheaper than a Goliath. So Happy Death, yes, is getting a couple kills here and there, but he's not being cost effective at all. Those grinders really not a sustainable option when you got this many tanks on the field from Red Dog. Red Dog pushing forward again, taking out another Goliath. At this point, Happy Death cannot win in a head-on engagement. Dropping a couple butchers, there's not enough of them. There's not enough other units on the front to really distract that. Is able to take out a unit or two, but Red Dog's going to rapidly pull ahead if Happy Death doesn't pull something else out. Might potentially go for the corners, might potentially go for the forward outpost, but he's got to open up another front. So he is going to go for that forward outpost, and I would expect him to get more units somewhere else. Maybe drop something on the fort. Red Dog, meanwhile, is going to have to contemplate. Really, he wants one of these two. He doesn't really care which. This one's a little bit closer. But as soon as Red Dog can capture a forward outpost, he has a straight drop on the fortress, and it's going to be really easy for him to do unchallenged damage on that fortress. So, getting a couple more creeps in there. Buster is going to be able to keep that base neutral as well, but Happy Death is almost able to capture that, and it's just getting some creeps on the fort as well. That's going to be so annoying for Red Dog to deal with. Actually, those aren't creeps, those are SAMs. They're a lot weaker, so get taken down pretty well. Happy Death also getting killed by the concentrated fire from Red Dog. Red Dog sensing a moment of opportunity, captures that forward outpost, gets his tanks on the attack command for the fortress, and is going to get a Devastator and two Goliaths on the fortress, which is undefended, by the way, for Happy Death, getting more honeypots on the lead, so he is going to have some repair going in as well. And this is pretty much a done deal for Red Dog if Happy Death can't just pull some miracles out. Now, these are tanks. They are on the attack command, and they are going to have a difficult time staying alive against concentrated infantry forces. Not a whole lot of damage has been done to the fort yet. They are on the whole position command now. So Red Dog changing the commands to try and get more damage in. Happy Death is trying desperately to sell those upkeep buffers so he can get more credits in the bank and build units that are actually going to help him win this fight, but accidentally picks up butchers instead. So at this point, he's pretty much lost. Red Dog going down, Happy Death going down, and the Fortress going down is going to make that GG for Red Dog, finally showing us that Happy Death can be beat. It's really freaking hard, but it is physically possible. So if you play Airmech, take this as a source of inspiration. Happy Death winning in almost every single regard except fort health, getting a lot more kills, getting a lot more unit kills, building a lot more units, having more damage dealt. Overall, he goes pretty beast mode. But Red Dog grabbing his crotch and doing cowboy twirls, gotta feel pretty good about himself after that victory. So GG Red Dog, we'll see you next time.